And so, it continues. Hello there, welcome back to Max's Writing Advice Q&A. In today's episode, I have a selection of questions sent by viewers just like you. Today we're going to be talking about several very interesting subjects, such as how to make writing fun, the jealous writer, and more. For the time being, before I go on anywhere, allow me to remind you that questions are picked randomly every week, so your question is as likely to be picked as anyone else's, so make sure to go leave it in the comments down below. And one more thing, the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a silly person who looks a little bit, or rather precisely like this. Oh man, it's my first time since forever, since I've done a video like this, so I was like, wait a minute, do I need anything else? Oh yeah, my timer! Why? Because we're doing 3 questions, 3 minutes a pop. Let's dive right in. The first question goes a little bit like this. Hair, behave, we're in the middle of a video. Hi Max! I'm writing a story which is mainly set in a school and the protagonist is a student. But doesn't matter how hard I try, I can't get out of the school schedule. It almost feels like going through a routine. The first lesson, the second, and so forth. Do you have any advice on this topic? I do, so let's dive right in. First off, let me preface this by saying that I completely understand where you're coming from, especially considering, depending on your background or the way people have told you storytelling should be / works. For instance, I find that a lot of writers have this misunderstanding. A bunch of them come to me and tell me things such as, does it still count as writing chronologically if you skip over events? And the answer to that is, of course, yes! You don't have to write everything. Now, for me, there's a really easy answer. Mostly because I come from a film and cinematography background in which you don't show everything. The basic idea is this, and I'm taking a leap of faith here, and I'm assuming that maybe part of your problem is that, you're assuming that you must tell everything that is happening to your character, otherwise, you're being untrue to the story, or you're not writing chronologically, or something like that. And my answer for that is, of course, that you don't have to tell us everything, because not every moment of a character's life is meaningful to the story. You can jump ahead, you can skip forward, as long as you're, following the thread of the story that you're telling us about, or things are staying interesting and engaging. Now, the question emerges, Max, how do you make things interesting and engaging? Well, I like to just simplify this by saying, make the writing fun. I've said it in the past, I'm gonna say it again. If you're not having fun writing, the reader is mostly not gonna have fun reading, because you can tell when someone enjoyed what they were doing. Now, you may be saying, Max, but how can I make a scene fun to write? It's just characters doing things. It's just these students going through their classes. What can I do? Well, in the past, I put forward, hair, behave. So in the past, I put forward a bit of a quick guide for how to make a scene fun to write. I'm gonna walk you through it right now. Super simple. When you find yourself writing a scene, first and foremost, ask yourself, is this scene important to the story? Am I moving the story forward? Is this necessary? And once you have answered that question, ask yourself, is it fun to write? If it is indeed fun to write, you're set and you can move forward with writing the scene. If you tell yourself, no, it's important to write, but it's not fun, I have 2 options for you. First and foremost, make it fun. Find a way to twist this scene, something in it, a character, a situation, an event, something, and just twist it to make the story a little bit more interesting, or this scene a little bit more fun to write. Generally, this particular point just helps me right off the bat. It helps me get into the right mode of mind that I need for a particular story. It can be things such as easy things such as adding another character to the scene. What if instead of shenanigans happening during biology class, the main character's best friend is also there, or the main character's antagonist is also there? Simple things like that can go a long way. Now, if you're looking over the scene and you realize that there is nothing for you to twist, there is no way you can make this scene any less uninteresting to write, such as, for instance, just politicians talking about political stuff. Or lawyers talking about lawyerly stuff. Stuff is boring. Instead, I recommend, and you have my license to do this, cut. Skip over that scene. You don't have to show everything. And a little bit of summary can just go a long way. If nothing happens in your character's life for 2 weeks, just tell us in the next chapter. 2 weeks later, something finally happened. You don't have to walk us through all those weeks. Seriously, imagine that situation. Like, jumping forward 2 weeks into the future. Thank heavens! We didn't have to read about 2 weeks of nothing happening. We just cut to 2 weeks later, and we move on with the story and the interesting things that excite us. Okay, I went on too long on that, so once again, really quickly, if you are feeling that you're stuck in this pattern because you must show everything that is going on in your character's life, I recommend making the act of writing a little bit more fun. If a scene is necessary to the story, either twist it to make it more fun to write, or skip over it and summarize it later so that we can move closer, faster, towards the things that are actually exciting and are actually engaging for the reader and for you. I hope that helps. Now, the following question is a little bit of an odd one, and I really want to answer it because it's more of writing advice that sounds like life advice, but it's something that, you know, we should be reminded of every once in a while. And it goes a little bit like this. Hi, Max. Less of a writing question and more of a dealing with other writers question. My friend is writing a novel and living with their parents, not working or going to school, so they have so much time to write, but they're not taking advantage of it. They only write for an hour a day, and it's really starting to irritate me that they want more progress, but aren't using their time they have every day, but I only have time on weekends after cutting unnecessary activities. Any advice on not feeling this way? And so, let us begin. First off, right off the bat, can I relate to this? Of course, I have been in this particular situation, not with another person, but with a past version of myself. In my first year of college, I wasn't taking many classes and I had a lot of extra time, and I did not use that time very effectively. And years later, when I was, stuck in that sucky 12 hours a day, 6 days a week job, I was looking back at past Max and yelling at past Max and going, yo, you had so much time, why didn't you use it? And that, would make me really stressed out, because it's one of those things, especially, it's different when it's someone else, but it's at least for me, it's a lot harsher when it's a past version of yourself. It's kind of like, yo, Max, you could have done so much better, but why didn't you? But honestly, like looking back on that and that particular point in my life, I'm just gonna come out and be honest about how I felt about it. And I realized that I kept saying those things to myself about my past self as a distraction, because complaining about who I used to be and how that person didn't use their time correctly was a nice, effective way of not worrying about how I'm using my time right now. And honestly, like, those feelings came right where I was at my lowest, and I was dealing with a bunch of things, and I was making lots of sacrifices to work on my craft and my writing. And the reality is that there are gonna be countless people who have it better than you, countless people who've got it worse than you, but that doesn't really change where you are at right now. And I know that it sucks to just be told, hey, stop feeling that way, so I'm gonna give you a different point of view. Because I know that it sucks to, look at somebody else who could be doing so much more, and, look at your own, small plate of time chunks that you have for writing, and realizing that if you had that time, you could do so much more, be so much better, create so many more things. But at the end of the day, that's just thinking and imagining, and meanwhile, your time is here, and I want to inspire you to keep on doing your thing, to keep on writing. And if it sounds disheartening to realize that you have just so much limited time, I want to remind you that, and I know that comparison may not be the most effective thing, but I wrote 3 books while I was stuck at that sucky job writing 1 hour a night and during my lunch and breaks. You can do a lot little by little, because it doesn't matter about how much time you had, your situation, your advantages that you had, or disadvantages. All that matters is that you made something, that you wrote, you pushed forward, word by word, brick by brick, you finished that journey and you came to completion. That person, they can do whatever they want. They cannot do whatever they don't want to do. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's about you, what you're doing, what you're pushing forward, your stories. I would like to inspire you to let go of these feelings. Stop looking over at that other person's garden and get working on tending your garden, okay? I know that it sucks, and it's gonna be hard to let go of those feelings, but focus on you. Now, one last thing before I go. Remember that it is most often, almost always, the people who have less, the people who have to work the hardest, who really, really appreciate the journey. And you're going to be struggling, and it's gonna be hard, but you're gonna get there, and you're appreciating what it really matters. And so when you have the time, when you eventually have the time to work on this full time, you will be amazing. You will be a powerhouse of writing. So please, forget about that other person and keep going, keep writing, okay? And guess what? We are not done with writing advice that sounds just like life advice. We have one more that's a little bit closer to being a practical question, but still life advice nonetheless. Let's take it from the top. It goes a little bit like this. How important is making sure that a novel you're writing is within your capabilities? For any given person's first novel, should they make sure it's not too ambitious, even if the project they're most passionate about is ambitious? Alright, well this is a question and a half, let's take it from the top. First off, and because I feel like this is mildly related to that, I have never been a fan of the idea of setting your expectations low so you're never disappointed. I don't like that at all. And I'm gonna be completely honest right now. I understand that where people come from, and whether, why somebody would say that having a really ambitious idea is bad for a young writer or someone who's writing their first novel because it may be too big for them. And honestly, like being really honest here, I personally don't think that there is anything wrong with somebody picking up an ambitious story idea, because if it's ambitious and you want to do it because it's ambitious, there's an enormous chance, an enormous probability that you're doing it because you love it, because you want to do it, because it excites you. And that is the fuel that makes dreams come true. And the biggest fear that comes from something like this is the idea that it's too big that you may not be able to finish it. But even then, not finishing a really enormous project, I don't particularly think that's a failure. And we also need to talk about another thing, like the first book that a writer writes is just that, their first book. There's this implication that like once you finish a book, or like once you complete a particular arbitrary landmark, suddenly you level up as a writer and now you can do more things. You're level 2, now you can write a story from multiple points of view. No, that's silly, that's ridiculous. The more books you write, the more you will realize that there's a lot and not very much different between them. Every book is its own individual, unique beast, and each book is gonna test you in different ways. You're only as capable as you are right now, so you might as well just jump in and write the story that you want to write. Honestly, like from the bottom of my heart, if you're somebody out there and you're thinking of this story idea that excites you, that you want to do it, but you question yourself and you're not sure if, you should do it because it's too big. Oh man, should I make my first story a story that's gonna span several books and maybe different other mediums? The thing is this, if you want to do it, go out and do it. Just do it. Worst comes to worst, you either complete it and you complete something amazing, or you gain the experience from doing it. Personally, from the bottom of my heart, in this scenario, the only way to fail is to not try at all. So, to answer your question, dear writerly friend, how important is it to make sure that your novel is within your capabilities? It's not important at all. It's super secondary, almost tertiary, to how much fun you're having. If you're excited to write this project, if you want to write it, if you can't wait to do so, go out and do it. Worst comes to worst, you gain the experience from working on this project. And that's about it for today's questions. I hope that you enjoyed them, and I hope that if anything, I gave you another point of view. For the time being, I would like to hear what you have to say. What do you think about the questions that were answered today? Do you have your own point of view? If so, I would like to hear it in the comments down below, as well as your questions for future videos. Again, questions are chosen randomly every week, so your question is as likely to be picked as anyone else's. And of course, as always, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I'll see you on the next one.